For the longest time in Total War Warhammers 1 and 2, Blood Knights were often considered the best shock cavalry in the game. Now, though, that title is under threat from the Heartseekers, the top tier of Slaanesh shock cavalry. These gals have a number of things going for them, but today let's get to the builds first. Before we get to the fun, Slaanesh here being piloted by my patron Coops. He's coming in with the Herald of Slaanesh, Lore of Slaanesh, so no OP pendulums, just slicing shards. And this Hysterical Frenzy for extra 40 melee attack and 25% armor piercing damage. Relatively cheap. For only 8 winds of magic, does last quite a long time and give Rampage, which is an issue for sure. Especially as these units do require quite a bit of micro. Of course, all these Slaanesh cavalry, the Hellstriders, the Heartseekers are going to be quite squishy. We've got them out here through the center, a bunch of Marauders mixed with some Hell Scourges, some Spears and Hell Scourges together, 4 Furies. And some Seekers over here with some more Hell Striders for the Warriors, the Forces of Cathay. Celestial Dragon Guard and Peasant Long Spears, mixed crossbows, that is, and Jade Warriors with halberds. I've also got Meow Ying and Terracotta Sentinel here. And yeah, some Celestial Dragon Guard halberds as well. So a relatively elite Cathay build. But Coop's is going to move in here with his Furies initially. Honestly would say you could probably hold off on this engagement and wait till your Marauders are a little bit closer in range so you can actually get a legit rear charge. A rear charge with that devastating flanker on these Slaanesh Furies. Their AP damage is going to do a lot, but at the same time, unsupported like this, they're going to do some damage, but they will get torn apart pretty quickly. That being said, they're going to come in here and allow the Marauders to now get in the fight without having taken any damage at all. This Herald of Slaanesh also got to be careful. She is quite squishy in terms of low HP, but strong combat stats means that as long as she maintains this, that Locus of Grace and just stays out of harm's way as much as possible, she should be okay. But the Sentinel coming through to teach her a lesson. Gonna pop said Locus of Grace and move on away. Take a look at kind of the mobile unit situation here. Right now, Heartseekers are just chilling back, looking for a good opportunity to come in. Slicing Shards, I believe Overcast here is going to do a ton of damage to the Celestial Dragon Guard. Absolutely insane value damage there on the Herald. Yeah, up to 500 value, pretty much just from that one cast, which is pretty impressive. The Slaanesh Cavalry having a little bit of a tough time attacking the flanks. Again, a little bit not necessarily unsupported here. There's definitely units within support range, but its specific engagements are not necessarily playing out great for them. Balance power already starting to favor Cathay a little bit as they take up their defensive positions here, but Slaanesh still has plenty of troops. The Heartseekers actually do get the Hysterical Frenzy, get a beautiful surround on the Terracotta Sentinel, and see the yes, Celestial Dragon Guard infantry holding out against the tides of Slaanesh Marauders. Yeah, Celestial Dragon Guard. Did I say Slaanesh Dragon Guard? Anyway, you know what I mean. They are currently fully surrounded. Fancy spinny blades here from Terracotta Sentinel. That was quite a bit of miscast damage. You have to be careful with the Slaanesh characters in particular taking that miscast damage, but here comes summoned unit of Furies to continue to apply pressure. A lot of the Cathayan infantry has started to evaporate, and the Celestial Dragon Guard hasn't been able to use too much of their ammunition. The Heartseekers just overrunning here, and the reason why I say they could outclass Blood Knights primarily is due to their speed and armor piercing damage. Yes, their charge bonus baseline isn't as high, but with that devastating flanker trait, that goes up to over 90 charge bonus when in the side or rear, which is really how you want to be using shock cavalry most of the time anyway. And again, poison, the fact they have 100 speed means they can pretty much stay away from any engagements that they don't want to take. Massive armor piercing weapon damage goes up even further if units are wavering nearby them. So while they do lack Blood Knight's ability to heal and sustain through damage, their DPS, their armor-piercing DPS, is second to none in terms of shock cavalry. Obviously, we can't test side by side with Blood Knights right now, but I can probably speculate just based on past performance, Blood Knights are still going to be very strong, as will other elite shock cavalries. Not to mention, Grail Knights. Even Chaos Knights with Lances are okay. Definitely Grail Knights, Blood Knights, Dragon Princes, units of that tier, right? All still very good, but the Heartseekers, if used appropriately, are absolutely nasty. Already up to 800 value so far. They are pretty expensive, though, so they're going to need to get quite a bit more value. This is an opportunity where they can getting a full surround on Miao Ying. Look at how that massive weapon damage just chunks through her HP. And in a surround like this, I do believe that at least part of the unit models are getting their devastating flanker. I'd have to do some testing to figure out exactly how the mechanic works when it comes to single entities in a surround like that. But, I mean, at least on paper, in theory, they should be getting some benefit from that. That being said, it's looking pretty dicey for Slaanesh. They've got a lot of these Marauders hanging around here. Sweet Sorrow. Lore attribute is popped as spells are popped. Yeah. No, that's just an AoE ability. That's right, from the Herald. I always forget about these things. Hang on. Yes, it's here somewhere. Anyway, maybe that is just the lore attribute. No, that's Blissful Rapture. I don't know, actually, where that came from, to be honest. Anyway, the Heartseekers are charging back in. A little bit of a heal from Miao Ying. As she's in human form, she can use that sweet Earth Plus to try and sustain through some of this damage. But the Slaanesh infantry being able to stick around long enough to support Slaanesh infantry, the Marauders, although they are pretty squishy, they do have great leadership and immune to psychology. So they can continue to fight even though they have sustained pretty horrendous damage. Speaking of horrendous damage, Heartseekers now charging in, getting at that juicy center of Celestial Dragon, Crossbowmen. Even a few of them getting engaged on the Sentinel as well, but Sentinel still has a lot of HP left. Gonna be a big problem for Koops into the late game. Miao Ying, likewise, has been able to heal through most of the damage thrown her way so far as well. So gonna take some pretty aggressive cycle charge, but let's see. Heartseekers are certainly up to the task. A couple of charges right there into those squishy, inexpensive Celestial Dragon Guard. At least, you know, squishy to them. Has netted them quite a bit of value so far. Here they go for another good charge against Celestial... Yeah, the Celestial Sentinel. Could you imagine? That's probably going to be the name of the ROR Sentinel at some point in the future. But anyway, Acquiescence also to debuff the melee defense there. Excellent choice. Just to help those guys maximize their damage output. That being said, they are taking it. Looks like the crossbows might be firing in there momentarily, now displaced. As a Fascination going to get popped. The army ability will force them to rampage into melee. More Furies being used here, and the Herald getting quite aggressive with the support of these Heartseekers. Going to get into melee, cycle charge a little bit, now try and pull away. Talons of the Night coming through to grip and rip apart those Heartseekers. Going to try and get out of there. They barely stabilized. Thankfully, their leadership is quite strong, and like Blood Knights, they are not subject to your typical leadership mechanics. Instead, being demonic, they have, you know, your demonic instability, which, while it does deal quite a bit of damage if they do manage to get below the leadership threshold, it's very tough for them to even get below that leadership threshold. So functionally, they're just about unbreakable, not quite fully. But thankfully for Slaanesh, Furies are able to come through, continue to rout. The Marauders of Slaanesh also doing a great job, and the Herald of Slaanesh gets a little bit lucky here. Terracotta whiffing on a number of attack rolls in a row, and the Slaanesh Herald could take a lot of damage quite quickly, but manages to not do so. A nice Pavane of Slaanesh here, even though it's not necessarily geared against single entities, just to pop the Enrage. Force Miao Ying to stay in combat here. Beautiful rear charge with Locus of Grace popped. Acquiescence as well to just debuff the melee defense down to 21. So Koops definitely going all in at this point to try and win. Also uses, oh man, the Hysterical Frenzy. So just literally all in with the Herald. I mean, she could take a couple of attacks and just lose right now, but thankfully, Miao Ying whiffs on that attack animation. She's up to 100 melee attack, 475 weapon strength. Again, with the Enrage, means she won't be able to pull away, but 2v1 here, this is pretty dangerous. A big hit on Miao Ying. Heartseekers at this point are completely gone out of the picture, but they definitely have done enough work to pay for themselves. Absolutely. Still some Hellstriders coming in here as well. Nice little anti-large, if not AP, rear charge. And Miao Ying does transform back into human form to try and stabilize her leadership, but gets hit by the Herald. A few more Celestial Dragon Guard volleys won't be enough to save that, and Miao Ying goes down. Will the Sentinel go down as well? Looks like the other units are teetering on army losses. Sentinel, of course, is unbreakable, so will continue to hold out, but looks like the Cathay player is going to throw in the towel there. I don't know. Maybe the Sentinel could have held out through that end game there. It's hard to say, but regardless, big thanks to Koops for sending that one in. Definitely a fun one, and I love to see that huge value on Elite Shock Cavalry. especially given that Shaw Cavalry are currently bugged right now to where they don't necessarily do collision damage. But because Slaanesh Cavalry is so light anyway, in terms of mass and fast speed, their collision damage probably isn't going to be that much even when it's fixed. They do primarily rely on just having that straight up weapon strength and doing his traditional attack animations to dish out severe damage, and they're able to do so when microed well. 2654 on damage value. As gold, 14,000 damage dealt there. Very impressive stuff. The Herald also 2,000 damage value, 14,000 damage dealt, almost 15,000. Pretty good stuff. The rest of the Slaanesh army honestly probably struggles a little bit. Yeah, the Furies were tossed in definitely too early. The Hellscourge Marauders, though, definitely trading really nicely here. That high melee defense helps them form a pretty good anvil for the other Slaanesh units to hammer into. I've also got good value on the spears as well. Not too bad for the Cathay side. The Sentinel can be pretty decent as long as it doesn't get isolated. It's tricky to go with the missile units, I think, the elite missile units, although they do pay for themselves almost. Just it's a lot to have to allocate to protect these guys. I don't know, maybe you take one less and just go with a little bit more numbers of protection here. Tricky thing is just that your infantry doesn't trade particularly well in this matchup in many circumstances, so it's hard to know really what exactly you should be doing. But there's a few ideas. Certainly the Sky Junk can rain down fire, and the fact that it has infinite ammo on the crane gunners mounted on it is pretty strong. But anyway, we'll explore this matchup more in future videos. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.